Welcome to Reddit Reads r/ProRevenge. Our first Reddit post is from Dedukov Spoke. When your ex tells you to move out while she's on a work trip, because the guy she cheated on you with is moving in, you get very creative moving out. I had originally posted this as a response to a question in Unethical Prolifetips, and was told that this would be appreciated here. Enjoy. I did this to an ex who asked me to move out while she was on a work trip and told me she was coming back with her new boyfriend. I got these little noisemakers, battery-powered ones the size of a quarter, that emit sounds at just the right volume, that you aren't sure if you really heard it, so quiet that two people could be sitting in an average-sized room, and while one can barely hear it, the other won't hear a thing. They last ages and fit perfectly in light fixtures and in wall outlets. I got a box of 20 of them for like $100 on eBay and got so creative all over the house, her car. I even hid them in a boat her father got her rich family and she grew up sailing. Now these little bastards make a noise at complete random intervals. Could be minutes, could be hours, could take a whole day off. They cycle noises like children laughing, the dying breath, as they called it, a whistle, scratching noises, some other ones I can't remember, but you get the idea. It was so unpredictable, it was near impossible for someone to just figure it out. Months go by, I get a new place, get my life back up. Now we had a few friends in common, and one of them I kept up with. They were kinda sour about how she ended things, but they had grown up together and kept up the friendship, loosely talking and catching up on occasion. I never really asked about her, but one day we get to talking, and is wanting to prank some friends on a camping trip, so I tell him about the noisemakers. As I'm telling him about them, he slowly starts making this face, like he's gradually losing his shit. Has got this huge grin on his face and asks me, "You put these in X shit, didn't you?" And when I admit, he starts laughing hysterically. Turns out her new boyfriend had only lasted a few months, and had left telling her that he can't handle whatever was going on with them and their mental states. Turns out for a while they had both heard things, and sometimes only one would hear them, which gave the illusion that something really fucked with them was going on in their heads at different times. They can't figure it out, and eventually he wanted out completely, and having run down all the crazy list of shit people who are hearing voices would think, ended it believing he had been infected with some brain worm the government was putting in vaccines or something like that. It was amazing. I hadn't expected to hear anything about it. I rode that train for weeks. When it went away, I got another hit of that high. She moved out, told her parents she didn't want the house and to give it to her brother or sell it. Won't tell them why. I always tell people who ask about her that I hold no grudge, and don't tell them the part where I totally fucked with her so bad I overshot the got her backstage and hit the blissful state of satisfied with my work. My wife knows this story by heart because it's her favorite one to tell. This comment is from her 34 Clipper. For anyone who wants one of these little gadgets, Google Anoyatrin. This comment is from Digital Girly. Update: so after I posted this comment, some people reached out to me to see if I could tell them more about the product. I can't, but coincidentally, I found one of mine, and it's called the Evil Tron. I decided to put it in my mom's house. It has 5 sound choices, and I set it on a guy who loudly whispers, "Hey, can you hear me?" and put it in the detritus that sits by her kitchen phone. Now we wait, I thought to myself. I didn't hear anything from her that night, but the next day she texts me, "Grandma's hearing aids are glitching. Fire chirping nonstop, and it's driving her crazy. She's almost in tears." This gave me pause, but there's no way the device could impact her hearing aids, I'm sure, so I don't say anything. The next day Mom calls and casually mentions she's made an appointment to get the aids checked, and it's only going to cost her $100 for the checkup, but the aids aren't under warranty, so if they need fixing, it's going to be expensive. Oh crap. I tell her, "Well, I need to let you know something. I'm sure they're unrelated, but on the off chance." And I confess I put an Evil Tron in her house. There's a long pause, then she bursts out laughing. The bitch had pulled a Daublecris on me. She found it the first night and played my ass like a fiddle for 2 days. Good on you, mama. Good on you. Original reply below. I sent one of these to my BFF, who was stationed in Japan. It's called an Anoyatron, sold by Thingjik. Anaihu, he put it in his chief's office on the inside lip of a metal filing cabinet. They have a magnet so you can stick them anywhere. Then he left on a 2-week engagement. When he got back, he heard the stories. Chief had it come in and check all electronics. He had maintenance come in and check all appliances. Finally, he lost his shit and starting throwing all the furniture out in a hallway in a fit of anger. Only then was he able to rid himself of the infuriating sound. My BFF never ever told anyone he did it. This comment is from Mr. Shmoo. My brother bought 34 of these and hid them in our lounge. We easily found all of them because he wasn't good at hiding them. We, on the other hand, were very good at hiding them. Went to his bedroom. Behind a poster on the wall inside a packet of cards. He never found any of them and couldn't sleep for a couple of weeks before we told him where they were. Now, a word from today's sponsor. Surfshark is an all-around VPN solution that can do everything from torrenting as well as streaming to browsing the dark web. Surfshark is one of the very best all-round VPN, terrific for Netflix, torrenting, confidential browsing, as well as staying safe on public Wi-Fi. Check out Surfshark today, link is in the description. Now back to the video. Our next Reddit post is from Drumbaba. Never mess with a rancher and a neighbor. My father had the ultimate revenge when I was a kid. I grew up on a horse ranch in Colorado. We had a long piece of property, about 80 acres, and we raised Missouri fox trotters. We had lived there for almost 20 years when some folks bought a strip of property way at the back of our land. It was a strange plot of land as it was very narrow and was sandwiched between our back fence and a busy county road. We were surprised anyone would buy it actually, as it forced the house to be pretty close to said road. Well, we never meet these new neighbors until one day my dad gets a notice from a lawyer telling us that after having surveyed the property lines, our back fence encroaches on their property between 3 and 6 inches depending on the spot along the fence line. These folks had never met us, never introduced themselves. Our first introduction was this legal demand. My father was a salt of the earth kind of man, very kind, but also very strong-willed. He called these folks, arranged a meetup. First, did 3 to 6 inches really matter that much? And why had they not come to us to talk it through? He even offered a number of different compromises. These folks were hostile from the get-go. They demanded he move the fence immediately or they would sue. Apparently, the law stated they had to put their house so far away from our fence line, and they wanted to push it as far back from the road as they could when they built it. So they wanted that 6 inches very badly. I still remember when my dad got home from the meeting. He hung his hat up and shook his head when he told my mom in his slow way, "Well, looks like we got the kind of folks for neighbors you don't ever want to have for neighbors." They sued and won, and we were forced to move the fence in 2 weeks. I say we because I was the free slave labor as all farm kids are in this kind of thing. All that fencing material and the time were a big cost for my family, but we got the work done in early spring. Here is where the fun comes in. So the new neighbors broke ground and built all through the end of winter and into spring. The very next weekend after they had moved into their house, Dad rousted me out of bed and we took the big truck into town to the lumber yard. I was extremely puzzled as we loaded up a bunch of fencing material and building supplies. We didn't have any big projects going that I knew about, and I kept asking him what it was for, but he just told me to wait. We built a pen and a small enclosure very near our back property line, directly behind the neighbor's new shiny house. The next day, one of our farm friends delivered a half-dozen pigs to their new home. Dan insisted on feeding those hogs table scraps and all the things that would go in the composter, as well as some good balanced hog feed to keep them healthy. Now, you may not know this, but the smell of pig excrement is directly related to what they eat and their pen. Table scraps make them smell bad. I mean bad. I had to drive the four-wheeler back there every day to take care of them, and within a month halfway there, and my eyes would start watering, it smelled so bad. When we mucked out the pen with the bobcat, we also made the pile right next to the pen. I can't even imagine how bad the smell was living in that house. The neighbors, of course, freaked out, and again, without ever even trying to talk to us, went the legal route. They lost. The area was zoned agricultural, and my dad had done his homework to make sure he was breaking no laws or regulations. The pigs were far enough from us and our other neighbors that it didn't bother anyone but the people he wanted it to bother. Come fall, when winter moved in, we sold the pigs to slaughter, and Dad stacked up a bunch of building supplies next to the pen and let the neighbors know we would be expanding the profitable operation in the spring when they came out to scream at him. He smiled the whole time, speaking in his slow, steady way. The new neighbors sold their new house in January when the ground was frozen, and the new owners would not smell the pen. Though as soon as the old neighbors were gone, we tore down the enclosure, spread the nasty stuff on the hayfield, and the new neighbors never had any bad smell come spring. They also were great neighbors and are still lifelong friends. Never mess with a rancher. Edit. Since I have gotten this question a bunch of times. This is what my dad proposed to the neighbor after getting the letter to move the fence, but before we ended up in court. He really did want to try to cultivate a good relationship with a new neighbor, even though they started on such a lousy foot. He offered to sell them 5 acres of land at the back of the property at a super affordable price. Our back fence line was almost 5 acres long. They were not interested. They had plenty of funds, too, as they were sitting on a $1 million payout from selling their home in which we knew as they brought it up multiple times in the discussion. Statements that they had all the money they needed to take us to court. My dad asked if he could move the fence over time them, rather than being hit for the cost all at once. Ranchers are not made of money. We could move the section right behind the proposed building site immediately to help with planning, etc. first. They were not willing to do that. It all had to be moved immediately. Lastly, my dad was friends with the 2 guys that did the inspections for the county for this kind of stuff. We had built many additions and changed on the ranch over time as well. They were all in the volunteer fire department together as well. He offered to get all of them together and see what options they had for dealing with the offset issue. The neighbor refused, again demanding the fence be moved immediately. If you see a theme here, so did my dad. There is no pleasing some people, so my dad let him take us to court. I later found out Dad was using the time to save up some money since he figured he would have to move the fence, and that was expensive, and he hoped maybe the neighbor would not push it that far and come to work with him rather than go to all that cost. I know my dad reached out a couple more times to the neighbor before things went to court too. This comment is from Sagi Albatristvo. Now, that is pro-level revenge and some suitably considerate behavior for your new neighbors too. Well done to your dad. This comment is from Digi666. The neighbors were playing checkers while Op's father was playing Ford chess. That was such a satisfying read. This comment is from I Am Haramiji. The smell of pig excrement washed over the dudes. That was Reddit Reads r/ProRevenge. If you like this content, please subscribe and click the bell icon so you are notified of new uploads. We upload new videos every day. Also subscribe to our Patreon, as that will help us a lot. See you next time.